Hi there! Welcome to Cook Local, Eat Local, the podcast where you can find inspiration, tips, and recipes for enjoying more local food and drink. I am David Crowley, your host. Today, we will be talking to Joshua Reed-Diawuoh. Josh is the founder and owner of GRIA Food Co, a food venture based here in Boston dedicated to bringing premium African snacks to consumers around the USA. He founded the company at the MIT Sloan School of Management as a way to promote food manufacturing and fair trade practices in West Africa. Well, hello, Joshua. Welcome to Cook Local, Eat Local.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you here. I enjoyed chatting with you at an event a couple weeks ago and hearing about your business, and I got a little taste of it, but really would like to hear a little bit more. So tell me a little bit more the backstory behind your business.
Yep, so I own a Fairtrade African food brand called GRIA Food Co, based here in Boston, Massachusetts. We work out of Commonwealth Kitchen, which is a shared commercial kitchen in Dorchester. And my motivation for starting the company came from work I did early in my career in West Africa, in Ghana specifically, supporting smallholder farmers and smaller agribusinesses who were trying to scale up their operations and do more value addition, which is a lot more profitable. So doing food manufacturing and steps that lead to a much more premium, profitable product in the market or in export markets in this case. And so my goal for starting an African food brand based in Boston was to provide an export market for those types of businesses, folks who are trying to do food manufacturing in West Africa and the countries where products are grown. So the products that we started out with are roasted cashew snacks. And
Mm-hmm.
cashews are a perfect example of a product that's typically exported from the West African nations where they're grown without any type of value addition. So cashews come in these hard external shells. The kernels themselves need to be removed through a pretty labor
Okay.
intensive process.
I don't know if I've ever
And
seen a cashew without with the
yeah,
shell. So
they're
is it how
really
is it
really fascinating crops.
okay?
They grow as seeds underneath a cashew apple on a tree.
Oh, okay.
So in order to get the cashew kernel, you need to separate the entire cashew with the outer shell, and then package them, bring them to a facility,
Mm-hmm.
crack the shell open, peel off a thin layer of film around the cashew kernel itself,
Mm-hmm.
and then do a roasting process.
Yeah.
And then there's also a liquid that you have to remove from the shell that surrounds the kernel. So there's a lot of steps involved. And usually those steps are done in South or Southeast Asia.
Hmm.
Cashews are also grown in Latin America, and there's a good amount of processing capacity there. But there's not in West Africa and
Mm-hmm.
across the continent um, as sort of a general um, feature of the industry.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to start up those types of food manufacturing operations.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they're successful across the continent of Africa, it's really important to support them. So I spent a number of years trying to find those types of facilities that were doing
Mm-hmm.
these value additive activities. And it was challenging for sure.
Yep.
My family's from Ghana, and I was looking specifically at sourcing from Ghana, looking at cashew processing facilities there, and a number of them had recently closed because it was becoming increasingly difficult for them to earn profits and to process cashews in Ghana in a sustainable way. So the
Mm-hmm.
export market for raw cashews in their shells really picked up, and the farm gate
Uh,
price of cashews increased,
hmm.
which led to the shuttering of a lot of these facilities.
Oh,
So
oh,
that was an initial challenge. I actually was about to export my first shipment of cashews that had been grown, shelled, peeled, roasted in Ghana, and the facility that I was exporting from shut down
oh
weeks
no.
before. Um, but there was actually a silver lining because um, the facility pointed me to other export partners who were doing processing in the countries where the cashews were grown, and they've
Mm,
turned out to
hmm.
be excellent partners, very consistent, high quality produce. So there was definitely a silver lining to some of the early challenges.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So I can see you're providing a great really service to the folks, as you say, to sort of have more value creation and profit, stay where the product comes from, which is great. Tell us more about the, what so you got the cashews here in the Boston area, and tell us what you do with them and what kind of what consumers can get from GRIA.
Yeah, so we get raw cashew kernels that have been removed from their shells, as I was just talking about, in their countries of origin. And so once we get these orders of the raw cashews, then at our commercial kitchen in Dorchester, we do a second stage of roasting where we add different flavors to the cashews and make them more appealing to consumers and experiment with different flavors. So we have a line of roasted cashew snacks. We have traditional plain and salted cashews, but then we also have rosemary salted cashews,
Mm,
cinnamon sugar, hot honey, spicy garlic. So some flavors that aren't as common at your local retail stores. So
yeah.
we wanted that to be a differentiator. There are
Hmm.
other, really amazing snack brands out there, but we felt that our focus on both um, food manufacturing in West Africa, and then also our commitment to fair trade, which I'm happy to talk about as well, kind of separates us from other snack brands out there.
Yeah, that's great. Do you have a favorite of those snacks? Are you allowed to pick a favorite?
I get that question a lot. I think cinnamon sugar is my favorite. I definitely
Okay.
have a sweet tooth
Okay.
and like
Nice.
cinnamon sugar. One of our really popular flavors is also rosemary salted,
That sounds
which is
interesting. Yeah.
a little bit more
Yeah.
traditional.
Yeah.
And then more adventurous folks usually go for the hot honey, which
That
is
does
also
sound pretty. That sounds
a
pretty
really
good.
good flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Let's
there's
circle.
something for everyone.
Cool. Excellent. Now let's circle back. Yes, fair trade is something you see that label, you have a general sense, or I have a general sense that there's some, moral value to purchasing that. But honestly, I don't know a lot about what's behind that label or the concept. So yeah, if you would break that down a little for us, that'd be great.
Yeah, fair trade is a global standard that focuses on a few different key aspects of the production and processing life cycle of food. Um, they're focusing on environmental standards, so ensuring that in the production and processing of different goods, that certain strict standards are met, and that
Hmm.
folks are making sure that they're good stewards of the environment
Mm-hmm.
um, and local resources as well. There's also strict labor standards, so ensuring people are paid fairly and compensated, and that workers are protected. And then there's also this commitment to fair prices for produce. So
Mm-hmm.
that kind of underpins the entire fair trade model. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Farmers and local stakeholders are able to work together to set a minimum price along with the fair trade organization in different regions. So there's consistent purchase pricing for different goods that are fair trade certified.
Oh,
And
okay.
then on
Hmm.
top of that, fair trade also distributes what they call a fair trade premium. So it's funds on top of this fair trade minimum price that are redistributed to producers, and they can
Oh,
use that money
huh.
to reinvest in their communities.
Oh, that's very cool.
So
And where
it's
does
a
that come from? Where is that amount that extra that gets distributed?
so in order to become a fair trade certified brand, you pay a licensing fee. So
Mm-hmm.
similar to like the organic certification or other
Oh, okay.
certifications, there's a cost associated with it.
Yeah.
A portion of those funds um, and Fairtrade's resources go back to producers and folks along the supply chain who are Fairtrade certified.
Okay. That's very interesting. Yeah, and I I was going to say something earlier in the conversation. A lot of my podcast guests, we're talking about, has a focus on local food. This is a kind of a different flavor of that conversation because this is produced, doing that final production local to me in
Right.
Dorchester, Mass. Um, tell us a little more, and I think that's a good thing for the people thinking about a lot of people think about who are listening to this podcast and are interested in local food. It is coming from a value-based kind of place. And so it's interesting here. There's that sustainability piece there. What is the local food? What is the food? I don't know if you could elaborate a little more on what that ecosystem looks like for the farmers in West Africa that you work with in terms of, are they relying mostly on exports? Are they trying to produce a certain amount for the domestic market, or any of that sort of thing would be interesting, I think.
Yeah. Cashews are interesting because it's mainly an export market, similar to the cocoa and some
Hmm.
other commodities.
Okay.
So I think the importance of fair trade, especially with products like cashews, is extremely important
Hmm.
because there are a lot of traders and intermediaries who are working to export the produce to other markets. And there's
Yeah.
sort of a specialized supply chain where you have folks who are coming to the farm gate, aggregating cashews that haven't been processed, that are straight off of the cashew trees. They will typically export those without any type of value addition to other markets where the shelling, peeling, roasting happens. And then the cashews are shipped to transportation hubs. And then from there, they're shipped to markets in the US and Europe and around the world. And then from there, they're distributed to wholesalers who then sell to like
Right.
smaller brands. So there's
Right.
all of these steps, right?
Hmm.
But our sourcing model cuts out a lot of those intermediaries, and I think that's really important for different types of food products that we see in grocery stores here in New England and around the U.S., ensuring that there is quote unquote direct sourcing, or to the extent possible, you're cutting out these intermediaries, which can be wasteful, and they can also contribute to um, premium pricing, higher pricing for consumers.
Yeah.
There, in terms of like the local food ecosystem in West Africa, where we're sourcing from, most of the products are exported abroad.
Yeah.
Um, I think one really important aspect of the food ecosystem in West Africa and the countries that we're sourcing from, typically um, producers' vulnerability. They usually are price takers. So a trader comes to them and says, "We're going to buy all of your cashew harvest for this year." And
Hmm.
that farmer does not
Huh.
have a lot of negotiating power. If
Right.
somebody's coming to you and saying, "Okay, we're going to buy your products," and
Hmm.
they're one of the only shows in town, it's very difficult to negotiate pricing. So
Yeah.
the traders in that situation have a lot of leverage. Whereas with a more direct sourcing fair trade model, the farmers already know the price, the farm gate price that they're getting for their products. And if you can keep food manufacturing closer to those production centers or those smallholder farmers or farmer cooperatives, it
Hmm.
also provides a little bit more leverage um,
Yeah.
and visibility into the supply chain.
Yeah. That
So
makes a
it's
lot.
a very complex
Hmm.
supply chain,
Yeah.
but Yeah, I think some of these principles are super important when you're starting a food company and doing exports.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm guessing a number of those companies you reference, I'm guessing are probably larger agribusiness type. Uh, they're not unlike yourself, a smaller locally owned business.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of larger players, some of which are shifting to focusing on ethical sourcing, which I think is great.
Hmm.
But it is a lot harder at scale to provide the type of transparency
Hmm. Yeah.
and protections that I think are needed for producers.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, the before I go, I kind of bouncing back and forth these bigger, social issues and economic issues related to the product and the product itself. Maybe one more question on this sort of bigger picture question, just to throw out if there are any other insights that you think you'd like to share about just sort of the whole the agricultural system in Africa and the way we engage with it here in the States. Any other things you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, I think fair trade and other types of ethical sourcing certifications are really important for consumers, and they're also important for smaller brands because
Hmm.
it's a good way to plug into an ecosystem of traders, exporters, producers who are already embracing the same values that many of us in the food industry in New England um, have have embraced ourselves.
Yeah.
So instead of me kind of looking for years and years to find the right um, exporters or folks to source from, seeing that certification is kind of an important way for me to determine, okay, who can I count on
Hmm.
to be employing good labor practices, good environmental practices, making sure that producers are paid their fair share. So yeah, I think the fair trade and other ethical sourcing movements have been hugely important for producers, but also for smaller brands. And then the second thing is I started GRIA to showcase the amazing produce and products coming from across the continent of Africa. Right now, I'm just sourcing from Togo, Benin, and Burkina Faso,
Hmm.
but I'm certainly looking to expand in the future to other countries and other products. But that's sort of a core part of what we do at GRIA as well, showcasing the excellent quality of
Hmm.
produce and
Yeah.
all that different African nations have to offer in the world of food.
Yeah, that sounds great. Do you have your eye on any products you might add, or maybe that's sort of trade secret that you don't want to be talking about on a
Now
podcast? And that's
I've been looking at other cashew like value added cashew products.
hmm.
Um, Milk in particular, I've been doing some experimentation with
Oh,
cashew milk
interesting.
and other smoothie products. So
Hmm.
those are on the horizon. I've also looked at chocolate as well. Like I mentioned in the beginning, it's a product where there's huge opportunities for value addition in the countries where
Hmm.
the cocoa is grown.
Yeah.
So it definitely fits with our model for ethical sourcing. Um, but yeah, there's a ton of amazing value chains out there and products across the continent. So I'm
Yeah.
definitely open, but those are sort of top of mind.
Yeah, that makes sense. And do you, when you talk about the cashews themselves, I mean, it sounds like obviously they're great snacks unto themselves. Is that mostly how you use them, or do you like cook with them, add them to dishes? And if so, tell us about that.
Yeah. So I snack a lot. I actually eat a lot of my own products. I love them, but I typically will eat them as snacks,
Yeah.
standalone. But
Hmm.
I also will sprinkle the cinnamon sugar cashews on yogurt or sometimes ice cream. It's
Oh,
a really
ooh, that's a nice
great
addition.
topping.
Yep.
Um, some of my customers add the spicy garlic cashews to salads
Oh yeah.
and curries as well.
Hmm.
The rosemary salted is good in salads too. So
Yeah.
there's definitely some interesting ways um, to add the cashews into
Yeah.
different dishes.
I don't know. I know we've focused a lot on the sort of the business, some of these interesting dynamics, but as we're talking, I don't know, I don't know if you have anything to say. I know nuts are pretty healthy, and as long as you're not allergic to them, the nuts, a healthy part of a diet. I don't know if you have any high level things you want to say
Yeah,
about that.
yeah, they're a great healthy snack, a great source of protein, healthy fats. And for me, it's a great way to get a healthy snack in between meals.
Hmm.
They're super filling. I
Right. Yeah.
usually just take a handful, which is the equivalent of a serving.
Yeah.
If I'm like getting a craving for something in between meals, and it like immediately kills my appetite
Right.
to eat maybe something less healthy.
Yeah.
So they're a great go-to snack and super
Hmm.
filling. So
Yeah, everything I've read, it's, along, nuts as a part of it, regular part of a diet can be super healthy for that. Yeah, the very reason, dense, nutrient dense. And when you eat junk food between meals, you're
yeah,
hungry a half an hour later, right? Yeah,
right.
great. So we've talked a lot about this, the great cashews you have at GRIA. So where and how can folks get them? And we have listeners, some are local, some are not. So I guess if you're local in the Boston area, and I guess would be part one, and part two would be as if you ship anywhere else, kind of thing.
Yep, we do shipping across the U.S. So
Right.
folks can go to our website, GRIAFoodCo.com. And then in the Boston area, we're at several local stores. We're at Nubian Markets in
Awesome.
Dorchester. We're at Dorchester Food Co-op, not far from Nubian Markets. We are at Black-owned Boston in the South End. We're at Sarah's Market in Cambridge. And then we're at the Wine and Cheese Cask in Somerville. So those are
Okay.
the stores we're currently at.
Super. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're in those areas, that's a great way to get it. But and people could order if they're shipping
Yep.
I think I said you have like a variety pack or something
Yeah,
people
we
can.
have a variety pack, so you can either get one of each of our 6 different flavors in a variety pack, or you can choose any 6 flavors. So you could get all cinnamon sugar, or you could get all rosemary, or a mixture of the different 6, the world's your oyster.
Yeah,
uh,
awesome.
yeah, so we have shipping, and then we're at some local stores as well. And we also do markets. We
Hmm.
do pop-ups and farmers markets. So the farmers market season is starting back up in a couple
Yeah.
months, and we're going to share which farmers markets we're going to be doing on our social media. So we're on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, all the major social media platforms, with the exception of Twitter or X.
Yeah.
So our handle is at GRIA Food Co.
Okay, great. That all across. Good. That's good you're able to grab those. We can
Yes,
add link to your website and the show notes as well. Link to your
yeah,
website
that's
and the
great.
socials definitely. So yeah, I'm sure the social's good for those pop-up or farmers market schedules. Yeah, because I know
Yeah,
those are yeah, great. Okay, well this has been great. It's been insightful, definitely learning more. I feel good. Like I always sort of like, oh, fair trade, that's good. I'm gonna be looking harder and closer for it. That's definitely insightful, and yeah, it's great to learn more about your business, and look forward to trying some of the cashews soon. So
yeah. This
it's
has
been
been a
great.
great conversation. Thanks so much for having me again.
Yeah, great to have you here.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Cook Local, Eat Local. To get the show notes with links for recipes and resources we covered today, go to cooklocaleatlocal.com to get the podcast landing page. And please be sure to subscribe to Cook Local, Eat Local wherever you get your podcasts. Make it a great day with some tasty local food on your plate.